All right, ladies and gentlemen, it appears that Genshin Impact, the Genshin devs, they might have actually finally started listening. They just came out with a developer update just the other day that seems to be addressing, genuinely, a lot of the concerns that players have been having. Stuff like cross-scene quest tracking and boss guides, optimizations for the artifact system, changes to the Serenitea Pot, the mail system, and of course the big one, controller support for Android. However, this is just a brief summary of all of the changes. We got to click into this link over here to actually get into what all these updates are looking like. So let's get on with it. However, do keep in mind there is some kind of spicy news when it comes to these quality of life updates as a whole. A new developer discussion is here. Starting from version 5.5, the development team will bring you new features. We already saw what the summary was of that. After the 5.5 update, artifacts defined by consuming sanctifying elixir will be marked with whatever the fuck that is. That actually looks like a fishing hook. And so I don't know if that kind of means that the player is getting baited and, you know, they're effectively getting caught. That's kind of like what it looks like to me. That actually looks like a fishing hook, and it's almost like it's sinking its hook into the player. When these fishing artifacts are enhanced to level 20, their defined minor affixes will be enhanced at least 2 times. And so this is the whole dynamic that they're talking about. When you craft an artifact with the sanctifying elixir, you get to choose what the main stat is, and you get to choose 2 substats, really minor affixes that are attached to it. And so having this fishing hook on the artifact basically forces at least 2 line upgrades to the defined subs whenever it's taken to at least plus 20. And obviously, right, it can roll better than that. It could roll all 4 of them or all 5 of them into the substats that you want, or it could turn out like whatever the fuck this is and take the other 3 substats out of 5 and go send them elsewhere. However, it's fair to say that this is a good update. This is a good change because players had previously been waiting months crafting these artifacts, which are typically goblets, with the sanctifying elixirs, and then they end up with a bit of an issue where none of these substats get rolled on and they have to wait another couple more months. The piece is just straight up unusable and it feels like they wasted a lot of their time. And so this is actually genuinely a good quality of life update that I do think that the devs should be getting recognition for. However, it is important to note that this sanctifying elixir in the first place was a quality of life buff. And so you could kind of view this from the alternative angle as well, right? Where the quality of life buff was so poorly integrated in the first place that it needed a second quality of life buff to become palatable and acceptable for the players. And so I'm glad that the Genshin devs are finally listening. I'm glad that the pressure from games like Wuthering Waves performing so well, and I'm just going to be doing a little bit of speculation here, the downfall of other games in their portfolio like Honkai Star Rail and ZZZ, I do think that it is pressuring the devs to actually keep in mind what players are giving feedback on and actually doing more to make them enjoy the game, like Genshin Impact, a lot more. So this is only one of the updates that they're putting in here. Let's get into a couple of the other ones. So you can just do some filter sorting to, see which artifacts have the fishing hook. Very cool. And then they're going to move on to the map. And so now they're going to have better quest tracking, where you can go ahead, you'll click navigate, it'll show you exactly on the map where you need to go. When you track quests located in other scenes, in most cases, the map for the corresponding scene will open directly, allowing you to conveniently teleport over without being prompted to head there to continue the quest. Okay, so it looks like they're just putting in baseline functionality for the teleportation, because I guess in the past, if you were to do a quest that was in a bit more of like an instanced zone, then it would tell you to just head over there. But now it looks like it's directly teleporting you over to the spot on the map so that you can take a waypoint and have a bit more of a shortcut. I'm going to be real here though. I thought this was already in the game. I had no idea this was even a new feature. I thought that every single time you click tracking in Genshin's quest guide, it would just do this. I guess the implication that this wasn't already in the game is the most surprising part to me. This looks like a feature that was in here on launch. That was HSR, so you're saying that if you were to click navigate in Genshin Impact, it would only do this in the main map. Okay, so they're just adding basic tracking functionality. Yeah, I'm not even sure if this was worth talking about. I'm going to be entirely real here. I do understand that Genshin wants like the good PR. They do want to talk about how they're like listening. They want to, make the case that they're implementing feedback, that they're doing all these great things, that they're actually listening to players. But I'm going to be honest, they're kind of just scraping the bottom of the fucking barrel here. Like, really? Like, you can go to the quest menu, click the track button or the navigate button and be shown where the objective is. That was worth putting in here as like its own line item and writing several paragraphs about it. I'm gonna be real. This is something that should have been like one line in the patch notes, not have a fucking video demonstration. I mean, I do think that this is a sign that Genshin wants to have different PR. They want to have a different perception in the space. I'm going to use the example of Wuthering Waves, a game by Kuro that is absolutely 1000% listening. They're going ahead. They're making changes that players are actively asking for. They went ahead. They put in echo loadouts when there aren't even enough characters in the game to really warrant needing echo loadouts in the first place. And Hoyo wants that good press of being known as listeners now. And I do understand that this is a objectively good feature to add, but holy fucking shit. Like, really? Like, actually? All right, let's move on. Now they're going to have boss guides. And so when you have yet to unlock the nearest teleport waypoint to a boss, after opening the boss's location through the adventure handbook or other means, you'll click track and guide. And this will show you the path of challenge, or basically mark out an underground entrance to the boss's location. So if you have not found the boss yet, or you haven't unlocked the waypoint closest to the boss, then you'll be shown the entrance to it. Okay. That's not that bad. That's sort of cool. However, at this point, why not just add a direct teleport to the bosses? I mean, I guess this is good for people who are trying to find the boss in the first place, and I do think this is really only relevant for the bosses that are underground. I mean, a lot of these features, they look like stuff that was in Wuthering Waves on release. Maybe I'm entirely wrong on that. I think they should just follow up on this and give you a direct teleport to the boss. Maybe just do away with these waypoints that are just right fucking next to it. Because they kind of do this a lot where the waypoints are right next to the boss. I mean, this is minor stuff. It's nice that they're adding it into the game, but again, I'm not really sure it needed this much of like a breakdown. Like, it could have just been improved tracking to undiscovered bosses and then, like a short summary of what it does. But hey, it's going to be helpful for newer players and maybe very helpful for those returning to the game. So I guess devs did in fact listen. They got the Serenitea Pot. Okay, nobody really gives a fuck about this, but let's get right on into it. They will now support exchanging for multiple items simultaneously and add a new exchange feature. Oh, great. So I assume in the past did you have to buy these one at a time in the past? And so now you can just make the decision to buy 10 of them at once? That's great. It's just a lot of these changes, I'm going to be entirely honest, they feel like things that should have been in the game within like its first version. And so I am glad that the changes are being made, but advertising such basic quality of life like this, where it's like, okay, instead of buying something one at a time, you can now like select the slider and buy multiple items at like, what? That's like been in RPGs since the fucking 1990s. That's probably been in RPGs since RPGs were like made. I mean, again, I understand that the devs are listening. They're making quality of life updates, but advertising them this heavily and putting so many basic fundamental ones that are just part of like the foundation of a game, and then advertising them like as like this amazing, wonderful thing in like a super long dev post. I feel like a lot of players are reading this and they're kind of just like, really? I can buy more than one item at a time? Holy fuck. This changes everything. I can buy more than... This changes everything. It's just... I guess... But is this what Genshin players are now getting excited about? The ability to track bosses, the ability to identify where the quest marker is from pressing the navigate button, and like the ability to buy more than one consumable at a time. Like, what the fuck? The change is that you can buy multiple kinds of items at the same time. Oh, so I can now select a shop basket. Okay, so the quality of life is that instead of buying items one at a time, I can buy multiple items at a time. Okay, that's I guess slightly more Yeah, that's still a very minor one. That's still just a basic feature that's like in games, being able to buy multiple things at a time. Like, I'm gonna be real here, and it's for the Serenitea Pot. It's for the fucking gacha version of Sims. Like, it's nice, but it's also like it should have just been in the game in the first place, and it's also like a very minor thing to be outwardly advertising this much about. All right, let's move on now to the gift mailbox search function. In the new version, the gift mailbox now supports a search function. You can now search for relevant mails using... Why are they bragging about this? Why are the devs bragging? Why? I'm not gonna lie. All of these quality of life updates that they're mentioning, I thought they were already in the game. Basically, every single one on here, except for the Sanctifying Elixir one, I thought they were already in the game. And the fact that these are new features that were not in the game before, it kind of actually makes me think worse about the game. Do you guys kind of get where I'm coming from? It actually makes me feel like it gives me a lower impression about the game. The fact that these features, these basic features, like being able to search mail or buy multiple items or track a boss or track a quest NPC. These are all things that I thought were already in the game. And all this developer update has revealed to me is that the Genshin Impact prior to this update was missing all of these like bare bones skeletal features. That is nuts. I'm going to be real here. This is a bit like the devs like pulling down their own pants and embarrassing themselves. Because my oh my, this is basically saying that you have not been putting in like baseline effort into like the design of your systems, and now you're playing a massive amount of catch up. These honestly, I think all of these changes, aside from the Sanctifying Elixir one, should have just been like a line in the patch notes, like a literal line in the fucking patch notes. Because holy shit, this is just... I understand that the Genshin devs now want to be known as people that listen to feedback, but this is just shit. This is basic stuff that every game, modern game, already has. And at this point, oh my goodness, I can't believe they're outwardly advertising stuff like this. And of course, when it comes to controller support for Android, this is something that's been a long time coming, right? This is also something that probably should have been put into the game, into like an alpha or a beta test. It's been 5 years. Glad that it's finally added. It's a great feature update. But as a whole, controller support for Android at the very end, and then buffs to the Sanctifying Elixir at the top, and then all of this crap in between. This is a Hoyoverse quality of life shit sandwich, right? You have 2 pieces of bread that are the actual, real, meaningful, good changes, and then you have all of the stuff in between that's kind of just a bunch of fluff, kind of just a bit of garbage. And so, overall, that's going to be my take on the updates. And so with that, let's hear what the community has to say. Still no artifact loadout. Banger. Can we please remove the ad that was recently introduced in the top left corner of the screen? I guess that's a quality of life they didn't put in. Players, why won't you improve your game? Developers, literally improves the game with every update. Players, why do they refuse to improve the game? You want to know why people are saying gibberish? Honestly, just change the name to gibberish, because that's what's coming out of your fingers right now. The reason why people are saying, why are the devs refusing to improve the game, is because these devs are putting out these weak-ass quality of life updates, right? Basic shit that should already have been in the game that most people probably thought had already been in the game. And they're not doing shit like this, where they put out a goddamn fucking survey talking about how satisfied are you with the time limit. They know what all the issues are. How satisfied are you with weekly bosses, right? How do you find the talent level up in material? They sent out this entire survey talking about the biggest issues that players have been complaining about since 1.0 of the game. They perfectly encapsulated what all the problems are, right? Like these descriptions over here, where do you think they got them from? They got this from players sending in feedback from years ago, and they put them in here. That's what players are asking for. Players are asking where those changes are. The changes that they literally got surveyed on, that there was an overwhelming response to, that they wanted it fixed or changed or just modernized. And instead, these devs are coming out with basic fucking features that have been in RPGs since before the year 2000. And they're talking about them like they're some of the most wonderful quality of life the genre has ever seen. Like, this is good. I actually like this one. What in the fuck is the rest of this shit? Genuinely, you could have tried. These are one-line items in the patch notes that don't need a goddamn infographic explaining them. This is absurd. I think the fact that this is the best that they could come up with like a whole developer update and then just gloss over the fact that there have been surveys like this talking about actual issues in the game that the company has made themselves, and then they're just completely throwing this entire one to the wayside and then putting shit like being able to search your fucking mailbox at the forefront. That glibberish is what people are upset about. And so we've covered all these updates. We've covered how relatively low scope they are. It's one good change, and then the rest of them are just like not even worth mentioning, to frankly be honest. And the devs responded. After collecting travelers' feedback, following the release of this developer discussion, we found that the new feature allowing players to salvage leveled artifacts to obtain artifact enhancement materials did not align with our design goal of simplifying character building experience for travelers. The dev team had originally hoped that through this change, we could solve the issue of inconvenient operations when using leveled artifacts for enhancement, leading to them piling up in the inventory. But the current solution might result in negative experiences such as moral loss, so we have decided not to implement this feature in version 5.5. So, I'm viewing this after this post. And so, I am not actually sure what they're talking about over here. I'm not entirely sure if this has been edited, if this has been updated, and what that means is that they removed the change that they're not putting in. So maybe there's like an older version of this quality of life that had actually given the details about the artifact leveling that they're talking about. Or maybe they're talking about not putting this change in. I guess the thing is, these devs in their communication made this response that they're not adding a change one of the most confusing things I've ever seen. This whole idea of like moral loss, blah, 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 piling up in the inventory. I guess, does this mean that they're not putting in the artifact upgrade for the sanctifying elixir? Or was there some other change in here in regards to artifacts that was originally in here and now they've just removed it after the fact? They removed one part of the change but didn't make a new announcement. Do we know what the original one was? Was it like dismantling? I guess this is the thing. These devs couldn't even highlight which feature they're talking about over here. And I think all this has done is add more and more confusion to the situation and just less and less clarity. I do believe that maybe they were talking about dismantling artifacts for EXP and it would turn it into EXP potions. That sounds like a pretty okay quality of life that they might have put in. But now nobody knows what feature they were even talking about that was removed. And so even in their communications to players to mention that they were listening, that they are actively addressing the feedback, they've just made it even more unclear what they're even talking about in the first place. I'm gonna be real here. This has to be some of the worst player communication I might have ever seen. They actually just need to hire like someone more like dedicated, maybe that's in touch with the player base, that can actually communicate things in a way that makes more sense. Because simply adding on a post talking about why your feature didn't work, editing it to mention that it's gone, but then not actually showing what the original feature was, just makes this situation far more damn confusing. And I guess that might be one of the tactics that's going on at Hoyo right now. Just obfuscate, put in all of this wordy response, and then leave players more confused than they were heading into this article. I guess, from what I'm reading in the chat, you can mass salvage unleveled artifacts from the inventory. Okay. And I guess that would lead to stuff piling up and then, you know, the issues with the inventory management there. But why not just, I don't know, show the fucking photo of it? I'm pretty sure they had a whole photo and breakdown of the entire damn thing because they're willing to make an entire massive image file just to say that they have a search in the mailbox. Why not just attach that photo here so that people could know what feature is actually being removed? And so I guess the Genshin devs did listen. I guess Hoyoverse did listen. But in their listening, in their response, they failed to address the biggest issues that are plaguing the game, completely swept the survey and the contents of this survey and the things that people actually cared about under the rug, hyper-prioritized things that honestly are not even features that players had been thinking of, or honestly, they probably thought were already in the game. And then when talking about how they're listening, they make the entire response one of the most confusing things that a player could ever experience when reading this feedback or reading how they're listening. And so I guess Genshin's doing a couple of things, right? We should give them their laurels, right? Give them some congrats. Give them a little bit, a slight shred of respect for what they're doing over here. But even in their efforts to do something well, they end up doing so many things that alienate their player base more and more. And I guess they just need to focus on some type of update, some type of article, some type of communication where they could get an actual player to proofread it, an actual player to look at it and be like, yes, everything in here is really good. It's really great. Everyone's gonna love every single thing in here. And you wanna know what type of developer update would do that? One where they address every single point raised in this survey and then actually fix the issues with the game. That's what would get Genshin a ton of positive press. That's what would get Genshin a lot of positive airtime and a lot of people talking about how the devs are doing an amazing job. Not updates and changelogs that look like it's for a game in its fucking alpha test. I'm gonna be real here. These updates, like things to the map, boss guides, Serenitea Pot, these seem like things that would be in like the changelog for the alpha test of the game. They're basic fucking features. And to have this in a game that's been running for almost 5 years, it genuinely seems like an insult to the player base to have them in the forefront like this. So with that, there's a bit of good, but also a lot of bad in these developer updates. But at least that beats the developer updates being entirely bad. And there's been a lot of Genshin updates like these that have just been bad in the past. And so I guess this is a slight improvement, but gosh, golly gee, just fix the fucking game. Just fix the game. Every other game doesn't have these just fix the game. It's not that hard. It's 5 years. We've suffered enough. Give a reason for people to come back to Genshin. Please. All right. So with that, let me know what you think. Peace.